So I'm going to have you come stand up. Everybody come up out of your seats. Come up out of your seats. You got to make sure everybody's awake. Just some blood in those toes. Arms up. Don't remember the movie Rocky. Who's corner champion? Say hi. Good job. Give yourself a round of applause. Awesome. All right. Can you guys hear me? Samara, can you give me a little volume here, please? Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Raise your hand if this is your first workshop here at our office. All right. Give everybody a round of applause who's here for the first time. Raise your hand if you've been here 5 or more times. 10, 20, 30, 50. All right, good. Well, we have an old saying, when you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start dying. So we're going to learn a little bit tonight. Are you ready to learn? You got your thinking cap on? Yes or yes? Yes. Okay. Who can tell me what the leading cause of death is? What is the leading disease killer in the United States every year? Who knows that? What is it? Heart disease. What's the second disease? Cancer. Okay. So it's 1 out of 2 people that you know and I know that are diagnosed at some point in their life. So it would behoove us to learn about what causes it and what we can do to prevent it. Because either, as they say, you're going into it or you're coming out of it. So this is one of the most important classes that I can go through with you. And the great thing is that it not only applies to cancer, it applies to all health, all function, and all healing. Is that important? Yes. So let's take a look at next month. We have our anti-aging workshop. So every month there's a different one, so you keep learning, keep growing. When we look at the approach to health and healing, you can't do that without looking at how the approach is for disease. If you go to the doctor, their job isn't to get you healthy. Their job is to find out what the symptoms are, diagnose it, make sure there's a code on there that they can send to your insurance company to get reimbursed, and treat the effects. There is nothing, when you go to a doctor, on their agenda to actually help get you healthy. Stop and think about that for a second. Think about the medication that they prescribe. Is that something that actually gets you healthy? No. Think about radiation or chemotherapy. Is that something that actually gets you healthy? To put a poison in the body? Can that actually create health? No. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for these things. I'm just saying that the standard of care today, when you go to a doctor, is not to get you healthy. It's to treat the effects. It's to treat sickness and disease. Does that make sense to everybody? So we want to start off with this concept because if you're healthy, it's because of a condition in your body. You have the right conditions, your body's maintaining harmony, health. But when you have disease, when you have cancer or diabetes or any sickness, there have to be conditions that are conducive to that as well. You're either building health or you're building disease. The picture on the left shows you a fish tank that's pretty dirty, right? And it shows you the fish. Do they look healthy? No, they look sick. So what would your approach be if you're taking care of your beautiful fish that you love and you care about, and you see the water is dirty and filthy? A, you're going to give the fish some medicine and leave the water filthy and dirty. Or B, you're going to what?
Change the water.
Change the water, yeah. So this is a pretty sensible concept. I think everybody understands. But the problem is that, again, when we go for conventional medical treatments, that's not the approach that they use. Obviously, we want to correct the cause. When the fish are sick, you change the water. When a person is sick, in order to get healthy, you have to change the internal environment. Health comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. Health is an inside job. So we're going to talk about the terrain today. We're going to talk about the inside. How do you make your body inhospitable for sickness and disease to thrive and survive in? And that's really what this is all about, you're going to see. Cancer's not random. It's not a roll of the dice. It's not crapshoot. And it's not your genetics. Okay? Because anybody in here right now, you don't fall into that category. Is it possible? Yes, but it's less than 10%. Less than 10% of whether or not you get cancer is dependent on your genes that is completely out of your control. 90% is what you do to influence those genes by turning them on or turning them off. We all have cancer genes, the potential to express cancer genes, but your lifestyle is what's going to determine whether you turn those cancer genes on so they express themselves and you increase your risk, or you turn them off. You probably heard this before, yes? So you either create or you resist the conditions for disease. 90% of it is your lifestyle. 90% of it's from you and me, what we choose to do. Everybody has cancer. You have cancer in your body right now. I have cancer in my body right now. It's only when the conditions are right for cancer to get a foothold and grow and multiply and thrive and spin out of control. But cancer is always going on in our body, and when your immune system's strong, it kills off the cancer. And you don't know about it. It just happens automatically, innately. That's just how God built your body. We all have an immune system, and when it's working properly, it keeps these things in check, in balance. So, colonoscopy screenings. How many of you are familiar with that, right? Not a good day at the park, but it finds that, pancreatic lesions half of the time in the general population by age 80. So it's very, very common, these things. Autopsies find prostate cancer in 50% of men by the age 70, 80% by the age 90. If a man lives long enough, every man can expect to develop prostate cancer. Most men will die with it and not from it. And so cancer is a normal part of what your body does. It's a normal part of aging. The key is to differentiate and find the cancers that are deadly versus the cancers that are treatable before it gets to that point. So it's not the seed, it's the what? What does that mean? God doesn't make junk. God doesn't make junk. There's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with the seed. It's the environment. It's the environment that we create inside our body. It's what we subject ourselves to that creates these results in our lives that we don't want. Cancer thrives in a specific internal environment. Inside, what's going on? Is your insulin running high? That's what feeds cancer. Is there chronic inflammation all rampant through your body? Feeding cancer. Poor detoxification. Everybody has detoxification systems in their body, but if it's not working properly, or you got more going in than coming out, feeding cancer. If your immune system is weak or suppressed for reasons known or you may not be aware of, feeding cancer. Mitochondrial dysfunction. Does everybody know what the mitochondria is? Back in elementary school, we looked inside the cell, very good, Bruce. Inside the cell, these little cells, these powerhouses. That's where all your energy comes from. Everybody say mitochondria. Mitochondria. These are the powerhouses. That's where all your energy comes from. And when that shuts down, all your energy shuts down, and things start going bad from there. So this is where cancer gets a foothold. If you change the environment, you change the outcome. Change the what? Environment. Change the environment. Okay, so this man, Dr. Otto Warburg, in 1931, he won a Nobel Prize for his discovery with cancer. What he found is that no disease, including cancer, can exist in what kind of environment? Alkaline environment. Where have you heard that word alkaline before?
Swimming pool.
Water, batteries, right? When things are alkaline, they're energized, right? And so he discovered this way, way back, almost 100 years ago. He won a Nobel Prize for it. And he discovered this, and it's all the tenets, all the principles that he's found still true today, but not much was done with it after he made this discovery. But it's still true, though. When we look at the pH of a pool, the pool on the left, would you like to swim in that?
No.
Why not? What's wrong with it?
It's green.
It's nasty. There's all kinds of algae in there. Now, if it was being maintained, if the pH was, 7.2 to 7.8, where normal pH pool should be, would the algae have an opportunity to grow in there? If the environment was being maintained, the algae would not have the opportunity, right? But if you look on the right, you don't see any algae there. Why? Because the environment was maintained properly. And so because the pH is maintained properly, the algae does not have the opportunity to grow. And it's a similar thing with cancer. Your body's supposed to have a pH of 7.365. It's supposed to be slightly alkaline. Again, this is how we were fearfully and wonderfully created. But through the standard American diet of foods that have preservatives, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, artificial sweeteners, you look at all these things, what does it do to the pH in your body? It acidifies it, yeah. And when it acidifies it, what happens is all those cells, you see that? That's live blood cell microscopy right there. You see all these cells, and what you're seeing is they're sticking and clumping together. Those are red blood cells. They're supposed to be carrying oxygen through your body, giving you energy and nourishing your body, right? But they start sticking together and clumping together. Why? Because of the acidity. And cancer loves that acidity. Why? Because it doesn't need oxygen to respire. Cancer doesn't, most cancers don't like oxygen. They don't need it to breathe. What do they like? Sugar. Sugar has a byproduct. It's called fermentation. Everybody say fermentation? You've heard that before, right? So fermentation starts to make its way through the blood field, and what happens is all that acidification starts to cause the cells to clump and stick together. And it makes for a very sick environment that feeds cancer. So that's what you're doing. Cancer, he said, has only one primary purpose, using sugar instead of oxygen for respiration. This should tell you something. If you run high blood sugar, if you're diabetic, pre-diabetic, you're in trouble if you don't get that under control, because what that is doing is feeding cancer. So we need to make sure that we look at this pH in our body and make sure that we're doing things that will actually starve cancer. How do you starve cancer out of the body? One of the ways is by alkalizing. Water-rich fruits and vegetables, alkaline water. These are some of the things, less meat, more good fats. And so this is a principle that applies when it comes to cancer prevention. This is very, very serious and very important for all of us here. Sugar feeds cancer. What is that on the left side? Does anybody know what that is? It's a PET scan. What do the dark spots on a PET scan show? Where sugar is being fed upon by the cancer. That's what it is. PET scans measure how much glucose is being consumed by active cancer cells. Cancer cells have 10 to 50 times more insulin receptors than normal cells. Are you guys getting this? Okay. So anytime you see insulin go up, you're fertilizing the cancer cells. You're feeding them. You're fueling them. So when it comes to monitoring your glucose, when it comes to your fasting blood sugar, when it comes to your A1C, this is very predictive of an individual's risk for cancer. So what do you see there?
Cancer-causing foods.
Lots of cancer-causing foods. A few here and there. How do you like the one in the middle? That's what they give you in hospitals after you've had surgery or cancer treatment. So, we look at all these things, and it's not just the obvious, it's what's hidden, in the spaghetti sauce, the tomato ketchup. What you'll find in there very often is the high fructose corn syrup, and, it's lethal. It really is. And how it affects your liver on so many different levels. So we need to get that under control. So nutritionally, a strategy should be understanding that the type of food that you're taking in is going to really give the cells the instructions for better or for worse. One way or the other. You're going to either build healthy cells or sickness and disease out of the food that you choose to put in your mouth. And so we need to prioritize proteins, whole foods, obviously reduce ultra-processed foods, and control sugar, especially refined carbohydrates, because that's what spikes your insulin. And also consider the fasting, strategic fasting, the time-restricted eating. Is anybody familiar with that, time-restricted eating? Some of you have done this with us. So you don't eat after 6 o'clock at night, and then your next meal may be 10 or 11 in the morning the next day. So you're going on like a 16 or an 18-hour fast. A lot of people do this. A lot of people lose weight with that. And what it does is it shuts down the growth centers in your cells, and it actually starts the process of clearing out the old dead damaged cells. It's very, very healthy to do that. And it's corrective of the metabolism. And again, this is really at the core of where cancer is the problem. Every meal is either what? Pro-inflammatory or protective. Again, by the decisions we make. I always say, you know, everybody's here because you want better results, right or right? Raise your hand if you want better results. But better results comes with better thinking. And if you think better, you make better decisions. And if you make better decisions, you get better results. So it all starts right here, a checkup from the neck up. So what do you see up there? What do you see up there? What's eggs and bacon? So you got eggs. Okay, so what could be the issue with the bacon? You got the processed foods, right? It's got the nitrates. It's got ingredients that have been linked with cancer. What else? What's up with the what's with the grits? What does that do? That type of refined white grain. What does it do? It spikes insulin.
Yeah.
It's tasty. It's good traditional breakfast. But if you're a cancer patient, you're trying to recover from cancer, or you're trying to prevent cancer, or you have a history of diabetes, high blood sugar, should you be having that for breakfast? Probably not. What about that? You have oatmeal. Looks like there's brown sugar in there. And bananas. What is that going to do to your blood sugar?
Spike it.
That's going to spike it. Yeah. And then you have these Nutri-Grain bars, which they look so healthy, and they have deceiving marketing. But when you look at the ingredients, there's probably 70 ingredients on that label there, and you can probably only pronounce 5 of them because they all come out of a laboratory. Nothing natural in those. And so all the chemicals in there are not a good choice. And what do you see there?
My breakfast.
Yeah. Better eat than me. Egg McMuffin. All right. So again, when we start looking at these things from a different standpoint, again, either we're feeding cancer or we're preventing it, either we're pro-inflammatory or we're protective, we start understanding that we can make better decisions. You know, even that doesn't look too bad, but the wrapping on that is green. And if you're a cancer patient, or you're looking to prevent cancer, or you're looking to correct your metabolism, you don't want to do anything that provokes an insulin response. One of the things you can do when you go home, if you're really interested in this, is just Google high glycemic foods. Google glycemic index, and it'll give you a range of different foods that provoke the lowest and the highest insulin responses. And if insulin is what is fertilizer for cancer, you want to have something better to choose from, right or right?
Right.
How about this? Arroz con pollo. One of my favorites. One of my favorites. There may be a time and a place to have this, but again, if you have a condition, you want to avoid the rice and the beans. It's going to provoke an insulin response. This is what my son loves. He loves the vanilla. He loves the flavor. And when you turn it on the label, you see it's just loaded with sugar. Yeah. Now I prefer the Greek yogurt, plain. It doesn't have any sugar in it. Some of it has probiotics, which you're going to learn that's important for your immune system. So there's better choices there. You got mashed potatoes. Here you have your potatoes. Here you have your rice. Here you have your pasta. Are we getting the point? Okay. Better decisions. And so a lot of times this just requires forethought. You know, before you go shopping, you make a list. Or you cook for several days, so you don't just get caught in a pickle and make a bad decision. It does require preparation. What is a ketogenic diet? Anybody familiar with that? You've heard of people, you've heard stories of people that just refuse the chemo, they refuse the radiation, they say they're going to do it natural, and one of their strategies is a ketogenic diet. What do you not see in that picture there? Carbs, right. Why? How does that work? How is it possible that you could starve, part of starving cancer out of your body is produced by a ketogenic diet? Well, if a ketogenic diet doesn't have sugar, you're eliminating one major thing that feeds cancer, right? And sugar, cancer loves sugar. You take that out of the equation, it's an inhospitable environment for cancer to thrive and survive. So your chances of that coming back go down significantly if you do that. Or even if you're doing treatment, chemotherapy, they have found that time-restricted eating and ketogenic diets actually work better even with patients who get chemotherapy and radiation. So they have found the benefit with this, And your body can use ketones. When there's no carbohydrates, your body switches to using ketones, which is a type of fat, for energy. And it does so quite well.
And peanuts there.
Yeah, it's fat. It's a source of energy. Yeah, so this is all fats and meats. That's what the ketogenic diet is. All good fats and meats. Yes, ma'am. Fasting in cancer goes back to 1909. The first caloric restriction study demonstrated inhibited growth of tumors in mice. So we know this. There's merit to this. There are studies that go back more than a century on fasting, which reduces most cancer growth pathways and increases something that we said before, autophagy. Say the word autophagy. Autophagy. Autophagy means automatically your body feeding on itself, eating the dead cells, clearing out the dead cells, making room for more healthy cells. It's like pruning the dead branches off of a tree. That's what your body is doing when you fast. So it's biblical, and there's a reason for all of this. You know, again, God created us. He knows what we need, and then here we have research that supports the Word of God for those who need it. But we know that fasting is biblical, and when we do it, especially on a regular and a routine basis, it just resets your metabolism. So anti-cancer nutrients. Some of these to take and make a note of: broccoli sprouts has something called sulforaphane in them. EGCG, which is found in green tea. I won't say the whole name out there. Polyphenols, which you'll find in berries. And also curcumin, which comes from the Indian spice turmeric, and anti-inflammatory. So we're going to go into these. We'll dive into some of these a little more deeply in just a moment. Okay, so curcumin, there's more evidence-backed and based research on this than pretty much any other supplement out there in terms of its ability to kill cancer stem cells, reduce inflammation, and this is why it's in the handout, where we talk about this always at the cancer workshops. Anytime that we see patients with systemic inflammation, you take therapeutic doses of this, and it's highly effective, and it's very important for anybody who has a concern about cancer or actually trying to prevent it or reverse it. Very, very important as part of the protocol. Vitamin D, you may take this for granted and think it's just for strong teeth and healthy bones, but there's a lot more to it. You remember back when we had COVID and they were talking about all the people who never made it out of the hospital? They all had the lowest vitamin D levels. You remember hearing that report, right? Okay, so when you go to the doctor and they do your lab work and they say, okay, your vitamin D is normal, don't just let that go, because that doesn't mean that it's optimal. If you get it to optimal levels, then you have the cancer preventative benefit. If it's just in normal range, somewhere between 30 and 40, it's normal, but it's not in an optimal range for you to get the benefits here. One of the best ways to prevent most cancers is to maintain a level of what? 70. What's that number? 70. Yeah, 70. So, most people, I even see a lot of people taking like 5,000 international units, and it's still not even close to 70. Most people need closer to 10,000 international units a day. We test people all the time, and I want to make this recommendation for you guys. This is what I do. Many of you have been tested, and you found the same thing. Generally speaking, this is not something that you want to underdose. When it comes to strengthening your immune system, we can do the test for you. It's a finger prick blood test, and make sure that you're taking the right amount of vitamin D. It's a simple thing, but it's so important for your immune system, guys. There's strong evidence you can reduce your risk of breast, prostate, colon, lung, pancreatic, and ovarian cancers by at least 50% by getting your vitamin D up and around that 70 range. Everybody with me? Yes. Super easy, super important. Here's another one as far as your nervous system goes. Raise your hand if you don't have any stress. Okay. Bruce, I knew that answer. All right. Jim, this is the no stress club right here. If any of you guys want to learn how to live a stress-free life, I recommend you consult with them. Yes, they'll show you the way. They'll show you the path. But for most of us, you know, there's stress all around us, and you know, we deal with it, and we don't think about it, and we internalize it. And what does stress cause? Immune suppression. Yeah, through a number of different mechanisms. First of all, when you have stress, it causes your body to release something called cortisol. You know what cortisol is? It's a hormone. When cortisol goes up, insulin goes up. And what do we say when insulin goes up? What does it do to cancer? It feeds it. But another thing happens when you have high cortisol, it also drives inflammation. And then it also reduces your natural killer cell activity. So it weakens your immune system. So this is what drives the progression of disease. I put that word parasympathetic there because I want to go into a part of this that if you miss this, it doesn't matter how good you eat, exercise, manage stress, and all these things, your body's not going to be able to have control over this stress. What does that say? Daily parasympathetic activation. What the heck is parasympathetic? I'll bet you're wondering that, aren't you? What is parasympathetic? Okay. Yeah, what's that? Listen to your wife. It's a non-negotiable. Anytime you hear the word non-negotiable, just remember, when the wife isn't happy, nobody's happy. Okay, so your autonomic nervous system. Everybody say autonomic. Autonomic. What does autonomic mean? Automatic. There's two parts to your nervous system that control everything automatically. Your heart is beating right now. Your lungs are breathing. Your stomach's digesting food. Your body's making red blood cells, white blood cells. It's killing cancer right in this moment. When you go to sleep, you don't have to plug yourself into the wall to keep going, do you? Right? Think about the walking miracle that you are. And you understand that it's all under the control of which system? Your nervous system, right? So the problem is you have the fight or flight part of the nervous system, which is sympathetic, and then you have the rest and recover part, which is the parasympathetic. And most people are in fight or flight because of all their stress. They can't sleep, they're wound up because of their job, their family, their friends, and this is what it drives that sympathetic part, that fight or flight part. It drives inflammation, drives cortisol. It's unrelenting. And when you live there, you are feeding cancer. Yeah. So that has to be fixed right there. Adjustments improve regulation and autonomic balance. Chiropractic adjustments, and I'm going to show you how. It allows your body to adapt to your environment better. When you have better balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, when those two work in a balanced fashion, your body can perceive its environment and adapt to its environment more effectively. That's what autonomic nervous system regulation is, and that's why it's required for a common sense approach to cancer prevention. When you have a regulated nervous system, it what? It protects your body. This, in my opinion, this is the number one factor that will increase your risk of cancer faster than anything else if it goes undetected and uncorrected. It's just a matter of time. But on the other hand, if you fix it and maintain it, it's the number one factor for preventing cancer. Are you with me so far? Yes. Autonomic nervous system, here it is. Right here on the right-hand side. Has everybody seen that picture before? Yep. You've either seen it here or in your doctor's office. And the two parts are, first and foremost, the yellow nerves that come off the spine. All the yellow nerves, can you see that, Tim? All the yellow, this is for all the people who have just started recently with me. This is for you. All the nerves, the yellow ones that go directly from the spine are the sympathetic. Which part is that? Fight or flight, right? Yep. And then the yellow one, the green ones, can everybody see the green ones that come off? Yeah. Where do you see them? Where are most of them? All the way at the top. Yeah, that's the parasympathetic. So all the way at the top there is the upper cervical area, right on the brainstem. And there's one bone up there called the atlas, which can affect that parasympathetic part. It's like a switch. It's like a master switch. It's like a toggle switch on your electrical system. And if we adjust that atlas because it's out of alignment, it can have a parasympathetic effect, a calming effect on your nervous system, a balancing effect between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. You follow? So that's what it looks like. That's how it regulates control. It comes from the top part of your neck and it extends down. It touches your stomach, it controls digestion, controls your immune system through the digestion, it controls your breathing, your heart rate, everything through that vagus nerve. Right there. Everybody see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this has been documented in journals, and also there was something on the news. Here's a 60-second clip I want you to see. Now, this works the same way as affecting your immune system as it does your blood pressure, has a calming effect. So I want you to listen.
High blood pressure, it affects millions of people, in fact 1 out of every 3 Americans. And if left untreated, it can be deadly. Most people take medication to control it. But as Kate Merrill shows us, some patients have found a simple way to keep their numbers down without drugs.
The mad dash to get the kids to school. The crazy commute, and especially work. It's enough to raise anyone's blood pressure.
We work on deadlines, and with all the law changes, which keeps me in business, but keeps us also pretty stressed out.
Soon, that pressure from running his Cambridge accounting firm began to take a toll on Adrian Kaspar. He was forced to go on medication to control his blood pressure.
I believe in not taking medication, but blood pressure you don't screw around with.
And this you sit right here?
That's why he came here to Dr. Peter Martoni, a Linfield chiropractor, who's using a new adjustment in the neck to help bring down blood pressure.
Now, if a bone is out of alignment and putting pressure on the nerve, it interferes with the ability for the heart to function correctly.
In about 2 or 3 weeks, my blood pressure was normal.
Bill Bird of Stoneham sells cars, another stressful job. He was also on blood pressure medication. After a few visits to Dr. Martoni, his doctor cut his medication in half.
Another 30 to 45 days, my blood pressure staying at the levels it is, I'm going to be off at 100%.
This treatment is...
So you guys get the point. It's the same area, and I check that on everybody always just to make sure that it's clear and it's not a part of that condition. And that's what clears the pathway for healing and staying healthy and maintaining health. Here's a study that came out when I was in school back in 1990. I remember reading this. What they did was they took a group of patients and they gave them a fake adjustment at the upper part of the neck. And then they took another group of patients and they gave them a real adjustment at the upper part of the neck. Both groups of patients had HIV, they had AIDS. And all they did is adjust this one bone right up here. And what do you think happened at the end of the study? The ones who got the sham adjustments, what happened? Nothing. The ones who got the real adjustments at that level, their white blood cell counts, the CD4, showed a 48% increase compared to those in the other group. And that was just from one area right there. So what happens? That top bone in the neck is what has that parasympathetic effect, which can throw that balance out. If that top bone is out of alignment, you may or may not know it. You may or may not feel it. But what happens is, over time, it becomes suppressed in terms of the parasympathetic, and the sympathetic goes into overdrive. And that can suppress the immune system in addition to other things. So how does a misalignment of the top bone affect your risk of cancer? It increases it. How? Sympathetic dominance. It triggers inflammation. It drives inflammation, and what else? Immune suppression. Yeah. Why is the concern with the top bone so much? Well, everybody's heard of discs, spinal discs, right? You know you have discs above and below, all the bones in your neck and your lower back. Guess what? The only area in your spine is where there's no discs. The top bone in the neck. Yeah. And it's the most important area because it's right on the brainstem. So this is something fundamental that should be checked on every human being. But when the atlas is in alignment, right? How does that affect your risk of cancer? How does that affect your risk of cancer? It lowers it, right? Yeah, it lowers it. So here's a question for you. How can you apply this? How do you apply this? If that's one area that can actually affect your immune system, affect your body's ability to heal and adapt to its environments, if you have a cold, a flu, a cough, or you're fighting a condition or cancer, what do you think a good thing to do would be? Would be to what? Get your atlas checked. That can't hurt in any way, could it? It can only help. Your body can only heal and function better when you have better alignment in the upper cervical area. And this is what studies show. You know, many of you know the story about my dad. He had headaches, migraine headaches for 40 years. 40 years, yeah. And I won't get into the details of how that affected my family life, but let me tell you, he was dysfunctional. He was physically, mentally abusive because he was suffering with his headaches every single day. And this was the man I grew up with, and I didn't know him any different. But something happened. I came home from chiropractic school, and I had just been learning how to adjust people up here. And I saw him sitting at the kitchen table when I came through the front door, and I walked over to him. I didn't say anything. I said, "Hold still, Dad." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Let me just check something." And I felt that atlas sticking out of the side of his neck. Like, I mean, it was just, he could not move his neck. There was no range of motion. So I said, "Hold still." And what do you think I did? I gave him an adjustment that I think they heard around the block, because he jumped out of his seat, and he was, you know, he didn't know what hit him. And within a minute, he said to me, it feels like somebody flushed the toilet, like all the pressure just left my head. What did you do? He said, "We just got an adjustment." And then months later, he called me at school. He said, "When's the next time you're coming home so you can practice on me some more?" And my dad not only did my dad never have a headache again, but that's not the end of it. Like, he was on 7 different medications, and because he wasn't in pain, he was able to start exercising. He was able to sleep better. He felt better. He had more energy. He was nicer to my mother. He was like my mom told me, "You gave me my husband back." You know, my dad's life was transformed because of that one adjustment at the atlas, which allowed his body to biochemically regulate itself to the person that God intended him to be. It was profound. It was life-changing for him and for me and for our whole family. And the ripple effect kept going, because my brother became a chiropractor after he saw that. My son became a chiropractor after that. Raised our whole family getting adjusted from the day that they were born. From the day that they were born. And many of you guys know this, you know. When you don't feel well, when in doubt, you come in and you get what? You get checked. "Oh, I'm sick." All right, so you can stay home and wing it, or you can come in and get your atlas checked. You can come in and get a tune-up and get through it faster. It's not a treatment for any sickness or disease, but it's like the dial on the old radios. Remember when there was static in the music, right? And you just take that dial and you just kind of fine-tune it, and all of a sudden it's crystal clear. That's what an adjustment does. It allows your brain to hear the body completely, perfectly clear, and the body, the brain as well. Here's a study, 1,000 infants, a medical study. They discovered trauma to the upper cervical spine caused many health problems. From what? The birth process. From yanking the babies out of a C-section or a natural, on their back, they have to go in and use hands, vacuum extractor, and forceps. So the damage to the cervical spine, a German medical doctor found that it lowered the resistance in childhood. That's what the cause was. Immune suppression at what area? The atlas. So why do you think I always adjusted my kids since the day they were born? I always checked them regularly and made sure that that area was clear. He found that by realigning the neck, they were able to what? Eliminate the conditions of lower resistance. So you want to talk about a way to maintain health? Can a supplement do that? No. Can a gym membership do that? No. All these things are important, but nothing has preeminence of your body's nervous system being able to regulate itself. Right or right? Yeah. This is the most important part. So what can cause your spine to go out of alignment? Surely the birth process, slips, falls. Kids have thousands of falls learning to walk. We have car accidents, fender benders, we sleep on our stomach or sleeping positions. How many of my patients come in and like, I got this thing in my back, my neck. How did it happen? I don't know. I just woke up like that. You did it in your sleep. It happens. And then we suffer, the pain goes away, but the problem's still there. So all these things need to be checked. What causes subluxation? Stress. Physical stress, thermal stress, and what? Chemical toxins. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And this is a true thing too. They discovered that the moment of conception, when a sperm fertilizes an egg, what do they see? A flash of light that envelops that. And you know what that is? That's when God breathes life into a living being. Boom. The minute you come into existence, the intelligence that animates the living universe, that hung the stars and the moon, that same intelligence is breathed as life into you and I. And it takes the sperm and the egg, and it coordinates that whole development process. Multiplying, dividing the cells, creating the nervous system first, creating the heart, lungs, liver, spleen, the kidneys. Everything develops under the control of that intelligence. There's no instructions that are provided, right? It knows what to do. It's innate, it's inborn, it's God-given. Does that intelligence ever leak out of your body? Does it ever fall out on the floor somewhere? No. It's still in there, right? When you cut your skin, what heals it? The Band-Aid? No. Innate intelligence. When you break a bone, what heals it? Is it the cast? No. Innate intelligence, right? That's what's healing you, not my adjustment. All the adjustment does is remove the interference to the expression of innate intelligence, allowing you to be at 100% of what God created you to be. How many of you guys want to be 100% of what God created you to be? Yes. And everybody should be having their spine checked at least once in their lifetime. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. Yeah. Because that's what we're working with. So, just to simplify, I wanted to share this with you. Innate intelligence resides in the brain. But it's got to get down to the what? The body. It's got to get to the heart, lungs, liver, spleen. It's got to get through the nervous system to communicate. And it goes down, and it's got to get back up to the brain. Okay? But a subluxation disrupts that communication. A bone out of alignment in your neck or your back, anywhere, it disrupts that communication. So what does an adjustment do? Reconnects the brain to the body. Yeah. That's the purpose of a chiropractic adjustment. To bring the brain into right relationship with the body. Just as we want to be in right relationship with the Lord. It's just remove the interference. We have to get ourselves out of the way. In this case, we have to get subluxation out of the way to restore normal communication and harmony from the brain to the body. That's what an adjustment does. Does that make sense? Now in the process, if your neck or your back pain goes away, we've got great technology to help with that too. But this is the most important part. Why I wanted you here. Why I wanted you here. Why I wanted you here. Because I want you to hear the truth. I don't want to do my job under a false pretense, like I'm fixing someone. Because that's left to a power far beyond me. I move the bone and God does the healing. And I'm sharing with you the truth. This is what we do here. From here, I will show you how to maintain your spine and make sure as you get older, your spine does not age anymore any faster than it has to. If you want quality of life, mobility, being able to be active and independent, there's a way to do that. But if you're not having regular checkups, just like you go to a dentist, it's like waiting for a cavity before you go get your teeth checked or cleaned. That doesn't make sense, does it? We go to the dentist for prevention, right? Because you know about tooth decay. Tooth decay is deceptive because you can't feel the cavity until you have pain. Doesn't it make more sense to check it before you have the pain? Yeah, because root canals and things like that, or if you need new teeth, it's very costly and painful. But what about spinal decay? You know, if your teeth fall out, you can get new teeth. But if your spine rots out, you don't get another shot at that. And it's not just the bones that decay, that degenerative disc disease, it takes the nerves along with it. And what does that do to the brain-body communication? Not healthy. What does that do to your risk of disease? Increases it. So, again, I ask you, why haven't you had your spine checked? If you're sitting here and you haven't done that, the question is, why haven't you? Probably because you haven't heard of it. Or the label for the chiropractor is, when I have a back pain or a car accident, that's when I go. But you didn't learn that tonight, did you? No, you learned something more important, right? So, if you're a guest here, I'm going to give you an opportunity to have your spine checked. And what we do to detect subluxation or these problems is thermography, and that's NASA space technology. That's a abnormal scan on the left. To the right is a normal scan, and we usually do comparisons. And then also we take X-rays. If you don't have an updated set of films on your spine, we do that, and then I study them and I review them with you. And if you need direction on improving whatever we find, then I show you what to do there as well. Now, normally, to have that consultation, all the testing, the full workup, is usually over $600. If you're a guest here tonight, I'm going to give you one of these. It's for friends and family. It's only $97. So please don't leave. If you want to apply what we talked about just now, don't leave without one of these. They'll give it to you at the front desk. They'll show you how it works, and make application with what you learned tonight. I encourage you to do that. You'll be glad that you did. All right, so I want to take a mental break. I do have just probably about another 10, 15 minutes before you go, but I want to take a mental break, and I want to recognize just a couple of people here very quickly who have done really, really well. Fantastic job with perfect adjustment and tendons. And that is we're recognizing tonight, Elmida Hansen. Everybody give her a big round of applause. Perfect adjustment and tendons. Never miss an appointment. Okay. And we got another one here. You give one more out. This is for 6 or more workshops. Many of you guys have been here probably as long as Deborah. Deborah's in the 200 plus club or so. But this is for 6 or more workshops. Larry Fontenot. Everybody give him a big round of applause. This is your Core 4 degree, your University of Elevation Health Core 4 degree. All right, so what I want you to do, I want you to take 60 seconds. Just stand up for a second. Turn and put your hands on the neighbor to your right. Turn to your right and put your hands on the shoulders and give a squeeze. Just get the blood going there. Wake your neighbor up. Wake him up. Wake him up. All right, and then do a karate chop. Got to make sure nobody falls asleep on me. All right, we're going to turn around. Turn around and love your other neighbor. Good. All right, you guys are doing a good job. Excellent. All right, karate chop. Nice work, nice work. Give yourself a round of applause. All right, let's finish strong. Let's finish strong. I got just a couple more slides here. We're almost done. All right, so toxins. We talked about chemical stress. So where are the toxins? Your indoor environment is 2 to 5 times more toxic than your outdoor environment. It comes in the form of prescription medications. Again, some of these may be necessary that you're on, but at the same time, they are chemicals. They build up in your system. Personal cleaning products, sodium lauryl sulfates. These are known carcinogens. Ethyl mercury in the form of flu shots or childhood vaccinations. It's a known fact, mercury in amalgam fillings, 50% metallic mercury. Lead in water pipes, lead in cosmetics, lipstick, lead in old paint. And then we have something called glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, pesticides. And this is a real thing. I mean, there's millions of dollars being paid out to people who got cancer or have died from cancer, paying out their families. And so, I mean, there are studies they've done. These are rodents that were fed glyphosate, and they developed mammary tumors within just a period of weeks. So this is the world that we live in. we live in a toxic soup. The question is not, are you toxic? The question is, how toxic are you? And you have to support your body's detox system if you're serious about cancer prevention. This is just one of the important components that we have to visit here. So some people live their life out of a medicine chest. Half of my family are medical doctors, and when we go to their house, that's the norm. That's what they do. They love going to doctors. They're on, at any given time, 6 to 8 different prescription drugs. It's normal for them, but that's not like that for everybody. There's a lot of people that don't like that at all. They're more naturally minded, and it's unfortunate, but there are studies that link a lot of these things like cholesterol drugs to increase the risk of breast cancer by 80 to 143% from a cancer journal. There's women who take an aspirin a day for 5 years or more increase the risk of breast cancer by 80%. National Journal of Cancer Research. Antibiotics studies show associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. So bringing this up so again you can take inventory. When you go home and you open up your medicine chest, ultimately you want to have that conversation with yourself. Do I want more of this or less of this? It's your decision. I'm here to help you. So we do have a way to measure toxicity if this is something that you're interested in. Toxicity affects the optic nerve. So we have something called a visual contrast sensitivity test. There's a number of cards we use. Hold it out here, and there are fine lines. When you're highly toxic, you lose the ability to discern the lines on it. And then we have something called the meta-oxy test, which is a urine test which shows cellular inflammation. And there's nothing more accurate for determining cellular inflammation caused by toxicity than these two tests. If that's something that you feel like you're overdue for, or you'd really like to look into, ask Deborah tomorrow before you leave. We can set up an appointment to have that done. And then detoxification, we want to talk about that. Bless you. So, how many of you guys use a sauna from time to time? Sauna? Nobody does sauna sessions? Okay. If you can, yes, if you can, it's one of the easiest and most effective ways to flush toxins out of your system. If you live in a community and you have access to a sauna, recommend that you use it. If you need details on the best process for that, let me know. Clean water, hydration. It's not just the type of water. Obviously, you want alkaline water, you want good filtered water, you want a good source, right? But also, you want to have enough water. When you're dehydrated, that's not good. It affects your blood pressure, it affects your balance, it affects your kidneys, all types of problems. But you want to make sure that you're drinking like at least half your body weight in fluid ounces. You know, at least until your urine is clear. So keep that in mind. And then something for detox support called glutathione. Raise your hand if you heard of glutathione. Okay, good. So what is glutathione? It's the master antioxidant in your body. It's what recycles all the other antioxidants, and it's very, very important for cancer prevention, among other things. But this complete clean that I put in your handout has something called N-acetylcysteine in there. N-acetylcysteine is the precursor for your body's ability to make glutathione. And so there's a good amount in there. We've had other products with this N-acetylcysteine, but this is a copious amount, that 150 milligrams. So the great thing about this is that it's a shake. You have 2 scoops that you take with that, and there's 26 grams of protein, very low sugar, and it's got a complete multi-spectrum vitamin in it. It's got antioxidants, it's got the green tea, it's got the quercetin. We talked about the green tea as an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, which counteracts inflammation and helps with insulin resistance. So the question is not what does this have, it's what does it not have. So I recommend that you try it. I always have this after I work out in the morning for my breakfast as a protein source. You can have it with coconut milk, you can have it with water, and then maybe you have some, a small handful of berries and some almond butter with it. You can make veggie smoothies. This one says chocolate, but we usually keep mostly vanilla because that's what everybody likes. But I recommend that you try it. It's a significant amount of benefit on many different levels with this one complete clean. Microbiome. Raise your hand if you know what microbiome is. Everybody say microbiome. Microbiome. That is your gut. What percent of your immune system is controlled by your gut? 70%. Yeah. So if your gut ain't right, a lot of things start going wrong. So especially if you've had antibiotics, and if you have a lot of medications, it's vitally important that you focus on rebuilding or maintaining that ecology of your gut, because your digestion is going to depend on it. Your serotonin is going to depend on it. You know what serotonin is? The feeling of well-being, right? That neurotransmitter. Your immune system is going to depend on it. So, besides the daily probiotic supplement that, of course, I'm recommending, that's what I do. I recommend that for everybody. What other foods can you have to build up your microbiome? Fermented foods? No. Fermented cheese. Kimchi, right? What else? The yogurt with the probiotic in it. What else?
Healthy fat.
I didn't get there. What's that? Greek yogurt, yeah, with the probiotics in it. So if you look, it'll show probiotics on it also. But the yogurt is good. And what else? Sauerkraut, pickles. Yeah. So look for, again, go on, do a Google search. Hey, AI, give me a list of fermented foods. Next time you go shopping, get some of that stuff. But you still want to have the probiotic every day anyway, because there are billions of different strains. And you can't just get all the strains from one source.
Olives too.
Olives?
No.
Yeah. But I encourage you to look into that. So that's really important as far as your immune system goes. Your sleep rhythm, very important as your immune system goes. And so light is what controls a lot of what goes on in your body. So when you have poor sleep, when you have poor sleep habits, when you have poor sleep hygiene, what are you doing to your risk of cancer? You know what melatonin is, right? You have a melatonin window. Your melatonin window comes on you probably around 7 between 7 and 9 o'clock at night. And if you have bright lights, screens, LED screens, if you expose yourself to bright light, you're messing with your melatonin window and you're messing with your circadian rhythm. So this is why it's important to start winding down before bedtime. Give yourself time to calm yourself down and honor that circadian rhythm, honor that melatonin window. Then when you wake up in the morning, there are ways to also work with that melatonin window so that you expose yourself to the sunlight. When you go and you look at go outside. This is why a brisk walk in the morning is so healthy for you on so many different levels. But don't look directly into the sun, but if you look toward the sun, it has a neurological effect through your eyes to calm your nervous system. And so this all plays into the anti-cancer strategies that we're looking at. Morning sunlight, darkness at night. You want to make sure that there's no light coming into your room when you're sleeping. And also try to stay on the same sleep times that you go to sleep and get up at night and in the morning. I know sometimes we get off of that, we'll have company, or you stay up because of a party and then you think you're going to sleep in late the next day, and what happens? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So at all costs, try to stay on the same sleep schedule from night to night. Exercise. Recent studies show that it's good to do this more than once a year. So think about that, and think about how often you exercise, and think of it like medicine. If you're taking blood pressure or cholesterol medicine, how often do you take that? You take it every day. So why wouldn't you exercise every day? Like, exercise is medicine. Movement is medicine. It improves your insulin sensitivity. It boosts your immune system. It reduces inflammation. And muscle is metabolic protection. How many of you have heard me talk about strength training over the last couple of years? More and more. This is not something a brisk walk can do. You need, the resistance bands. You need the free weights. You need heavy hands at least twice a week. And not just, for cancer prevention, but to prevent dementia, Alzheimer's, to help with your blood sugar. For all the degenerative diseases that end people's lives early, you have to have resistance exercise in there. It's not a substitute for yoga or just going for a brisk walk. While all those things are good, there's nothing that can substitute resistance exercise. Are you with me? Okay, so think about when you can do that. And then some next level prevention strategies. We talked about time resistant, time restricted eating. If you can track your fasting insulin, that's a good idea. And then mitochondrial support. We talked about those energy factories in your body. Sunlight, daily sunlight. Like if you can get out in the sun and just sit out in the sun for 15 or 20 minutes every day, do you know how healthy that is? Do you know that that natural sunlight gets down into your mitochondria? The energy factories, where all of your energy comes from or all of cancer will be built, where your DNA is, that either activates and turns on the disease genes or turns them off in the mitochondria. So when you're out there just getting sun, soaking that in, it's getting down to the mitochondrial level. Did you know that? Yeah. It's when you have hours in the sun and it burns you, it's no good. But nobody ever said sitting out there for 15 or 20 minutes in the sun wasn't good for you. It's very healthy for you on many, many different levels. I try to do that every day. Look, I'm wearing a white shirt. You see I've got a little darkness going on. I did it today, I did it yesterday, I did it the day before. I can't go a day without getting out there. If I see the sun and I hear the birds chirping, I'm taking my laptop outside moving. I'm getting outside. So these are super healthy things. You need mitochondrial support. You're talking about your DNA, the aging process with the cells, your immune function. So this was not in your supplement suite, handout. This is a well-kept secret. Now, we don't keep a lot of this, but I keep it on the shelf. I take. And I have a handful of patients that do. I don't promote it all that much other than here, the anti-aging, sometimes in the diabetes workshop. But that resveratrol helps at the mitochondrial level. And it supports all that, the DNA repair, the cellular aging. So that's why I put it up there for you guys. If you're interested in that, I can talk to you more about that. So again, optimizing the terrain comes down to what? Controlling what? Controlling what else? Strengthening your immunity, and then what else? Supporting the detox. That's why I put all these together for you. If you want to take advantage of them and you want to purchase them tonight, it's 15% off. Only time the supplements are ever discount are for those of you who attend the workshop. And we do that to reward you, to incentivize you, and help you make application with what you're learning right now. So there's limited supplies. You can grab some of that on the way out. And then finally, what are your last 10 years going to look like? What are you going to do with everything that you learned tonight? Would everybody agree that you learned something important tonight? Yes? Do you have at least one thing that you can apply that we talked about, that you can do better? Yes. Good. Then it was worth our time being here tonight. So make application. That's the next step. If you're a guest here and you want to take advantage of having your spine and nerve system checked, the full workup, see them at the front desk. If you want the supplements, they'll help you with that. If you want to get the toxicity testing, again, those are all the places that they can help you with that. Again, it's one thing to have information. What's more important than information is application. Yeah, how do you apply it? So thank you so much for being here tonight. You guys have been great. Love and appreciate you. God bless.